geopolitical, social, and economic well-being. Broadcast every Monday and Thursdays at 09 hours. On Joy FM Radio, call or SMS to participate. Remember, the views expressed on the platform are not of the station, but those of either the guests or the participants. Joy FM Radio, for your ears only.
A very good morning and welcome to today's edition of the platform program. And we are back this Thursday, and we are here to actually highlight some of the issues that are actually happening in our country, and indeed making an informed decision from the perspective of our guests, and also looking at the general perspective as we open the phone lines later on the program. And indeed today we are privileged to actually talk to Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. He is actually the Patriotic Front presidential aspirant, and of course we'll be discussing a number of issues regarding power generation in Zambia. And this is a very, very topical issue that has brought a lot of people actually talking about it from the time, the announcement of the load shedding in places. And of course, it's been a very, very terrible situation. Reading from the comments that are actually coming from various sections of society and many other issues that obviously arise from that particular background. Welcome to this broadcast. My name is McFarlane Munyanga, and indeed we are also live on Prime Television and Prime Television official Facebook page. You can catch us. You can also get to watch this particular program on Joy FM page, as well as the link is shared on that particular page for you to follow this broadcast today. And interestingly, we'll be largely looking at what is going on in so far as the energy sector is concerned. Power generation in Zambia is something that has really brought a lot of questions, and we are here to ask Mr. Mwamba, and we get to know and understand what really is contained in this particular regard. Good morning, Ambassador Mwamba. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, McFarlane, and good to be here to your viewers and listeners on Joy FM and Prime TV, and to those that are watching us on social media. Great.
It's good to have you this particular year. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too. We started it on a sad note. Today they are putting to rest Pope Benedict. The 16th May saw rest in eternal peace, something that is extremely historical. And we have other people that died, like from the fraternity. We have a young lady in Chimunya, she was a journalist at Times of Zambia, and then joins APP as a PRO. We think that, our condolences to those families. But here we are. Let us discuss the power crisis. And I hope that our people can hear and watch us, especially with these 12-hour load shedding.
Mm-hmm. Now, as we kickstart our conversation this morning, I would like you to actually describe power generation in Zambia. First of all, we look back to independence, times after Zambia got independence, and of course we know that our population has increased, but there is always something that is supposed to correlate with the power usage and also demand, insofar as how we have actually come to where we are, and some of the causes that are actually causing this particular matter. It could be also be that people now that are using electricity and activities that are actually happening in our country have advanced from the previous ones. So let's look at some areas where we have gone wrong. Maybe we can also generate some solutions from that particular background.
So for power generation, for electricity in Zambia, it was driven by the mining sector. We had our first power generation, a hydropower station, Lunsemfwa in Kabwe, to power the zinc mine in Kabwe. It was called Broken Hill at the time. That's 1925. We had the second power station open in Livingstone, the Batoka Gorge power station. It was called Victoria Falls power station. It was thermal, then it became hydro, 1938. Then we had the big one that was driven by both IMF and World Bank in the 50s, when we began to build Kariba power station. This created the largest man-made lake in Kariba Lake. And then we had those power generation stations that were created. Fast forward, in the 60s and 70s, Dr. Kaunda added Kafiwe Gorge. And then, these mini hydros were built across the country to avoid huge transmission, lines to evacuate power from Kariba, which is far, for example, in the south, to take it to Mbala. So a decision was made that mini hydros can power these towns. And that's why you have Lunzua in Mbala, you have Chishimba in Kasama, you have Musonda in Kawambwa, you have now Lusiwasi in Serenje. So we fast forward to the last 10 years. The Patriotic Front recognized we had a huge population of now 14 million. From 3 million, it was now 14 million as of 2011. The industrial and capacity of Zambia had grown, and there was not enough power. In some places, for example, northern Luapula, you can't even set up an industry because there was not enough power to do industrial works. So the Patriotic Front went into an ambitious power, generation upgrade. Like they did to the roads, like they did to the schools, like they did to the hospital. They also did marvelous work in the energy sector. So the small power hydropower stations were upgraded. The big ones were also upgraded. So let's run through what was done. In 2011, we had 1,600 megawatts installed capacity for the entire country. 1,600 megawatts. We are now at 3,456 megawatts installed capacity. You can see that the Patriotic Front literally doubled the generation capacity of the Zambian electricity sector in a period of 10 years. It takes a long time to bring online these generation capacity because minimum is about 5 to 10 years. So Lunzua in Mbala was upgraded. It was a 0.75 megawatt. It was upgraded to 15. Chishimba Force was upgraded from a 1 megawatt to 15 megawatts. Musonda Force was upgraded to 10 megawatts. It was also a 0.7 power. We had the mini hydro created in Chinsali. Then the power stations in Serenje, Lusiwasi 1 and Lusiwasi 2 were upgraded. Those are producing about 100 megawatts. Big improvement. The CEC wanted to develop Kabompo power as a private sector. It hasn't taken off. That was in Kabompo in Northwestern Province. But for the Patriotic Front, only 2 towns were on national grid. The rest were on generation sets. So the Patriotic Front did power transmission lines to all Northwestern Province towns, and they brought them online to benefit from the national grid. Iteji was built as a partnership with Tata, and they're producing 120 megawatts. Then we had the big one, Kafiwe Gorge Lower. Because remember, we have Kafiwe Gorge Upper, yes, which produces 990 megawatts. It's a second to what happens at Kariba. It's the second largest power station. But with the production now that we did with Kafiwe Lower, which is supposed to produce 750 megawatts, and 600 is already being produced. Kafiwe Upper and Kafiwe Lower are actually producing more power than Kariba. So we increased by developing Kafiwe Gorge Lower, 750 megawatts, $2.1 billion project. And then in Kariba, remember there is Kariba North Bank power station, and there is the original Kariba. They were upgraded. They used to produce about 660 megawatts. Now, the two combined stations are producing 1,080 megawatts. So what you have in Zambia now is a surplus where we constantly have to export our power because Zambia's peak demand. Fyonse mwa bantu bakwalesanga mwasha ama radio, ama TV, nama industries yare running, wa machine wale running. Our demand is only 2,300 megawatts. Am I right to Kwete? Ni 3,456. So we have excess power.
So now, from the excess power, how much do we actually export, and also how much do we remain with? Because if we remain with less power, it simply means that we can justify the load shedding that we are currently experiencing. How much are we exporting, and how much are we remaining with?
So remember the dream. The dream is that Zambia should be a net exporter of power. Our biggest export should not be copper. Our biggest export should be power. Because of our endowment in water. Zambia holds 40% of water resource in Southern Africa. So we said we can be the net exporter of power. That's why we're trying to develop even Batoka Gorge in conjunction with Zimbabwe, 2,400 megawatts. We're trying to develop Luapula, 1,000 megawatts. Kabompo, CEC, I think with IDC are supposed to produce, that one is a bit smaller, about 120 megawatts. But the point is, Zambia's biggest export should be electricity, because that takes advantage of our resources. So what was done, when the new government came in, they rushed to engage in export contracts. So you saw the managing director of ZESCO sign with his colleagues from Namibia. We've been exporting 100 megawatts. He added 80 megawatts. We are exporting 100 megawatts to Zimbabwe. We are exporting about 80 megawatts to Botswana. We are exporting to Eskom. We are exporting the traditional exports that we do to Malawi and DRC. We are exporting to Tanzania. Like the Lunzua one that I talked about in Mbala, it was 0.75. Now it's producing 15 megawatts. That's a lot of power for a small place like Mbala and Mpulungu. So you have to evacuate that power and sell it to those that you need. And it's being sold to the town of Sumbawanga. I think when the proper transmission lines are done, probably you can feed that power into the national grid. So the new government signed these 4 agreements I've talked about. And then there's a natural way, because you can't store power. The battery technology is still very poor. So if I have excess, it goes to waste. I have to utilize it or export it. So we have what is called the Southern Africa Power Pool. So this is where every time you have excess, you throw it there. So the Southern African Power Pool has interconnected with Zimbabwe, with Mozambique, with South Africa, with Botswana, Lesotho, Swaziland. So every time any of these countries have excess power, they throw it on the pool so that whoever has a deficit, because you monitor this per hour, per 6 hours, per day, per month, just like that. So whoever has a deficit then can get, and there's an automatic way of trading, negotiating how much you should pay when.
Now, let's look at some independent power producers, which we actually have in our country. Did you, at some point during the Patriotic Front administration, engage this together with the government already engaged power producers such as Kafue Gorge and many others? Have you also tried during the then administration to incorporate these in this power generation arrangement to ensure that we do not actually run out of power? Because there is an attribution that instead of coming up with solution, we make reference to what used to happen during the Patriotic Front administration, which is not supposed to be the case, because we urgently need to have power. And of course, without the aspect of trying to make comparisons and the agency that is actually needed to have power in our homes for usage in many areas is just too urgent. So let's deal with this particular matter of independent power producers.
So the independent power producers can't produce power without the help of ZESCO. That is why you heard the president insisting that he needs to unlock the rigidities around ZESCO and independent power producer. For you to produce power, you do not have infrastructure. Remember, ZESCO is a vertically integrated company. It means ZESCO generates power. ZESCO transmits power. ZESCO then takes the power to a substation, which then distributes to domestic users or commercial users. So ZESCO is a vertically integrated company. It does everything. You as an independent producer, if you came on, can you afford to create your own transmission lines? Can you afford to create your own distribution lines? The answer is a categorical no. It will be too expensive for your power. So what you need is, when you produce your power, you need it to sell it to ZESCO, who then wheels it and then sells to its customers. The trouble there, and let's first discuss who are the independent power producers. They are in two types. There are those that are totally owned by governments, although they are called independent power producers, and there are those that are totally private sector. The ones that are owned by government through either IDC or ZESCO is, for example, Kafue Gorge Lower, the new one for 750 megawatts. ZESCO created a special purpose vehicle company that then borrows from China $2.1 billion, sets up this 750 megawatts power station, and begin to sell it to ZESCO to pay the loan, although it's owned by ZESCO. So there are those, it's called like an independent power producer when it is not. Kariba North Bank, we also have what we call an independent power producer there. Special purpose vehicle, same arrangement. Then we have these that are like both in partnership with government, like Iteji, 120 megawatts. So you are in partnership 50%, 50% with Tata. So you produce a power, you sell it to ZESCO. ZESCO pays this, ITC, the Iteji company, which shares in the profits with Tata. Then there are these totally private owned. Lunsemfwa used to be owned by ZCCM. It was sold to the private sector, and then it produces and sells its own power to either the mines, or they can export it to DRC. You have the two big power station, two solar stations, Bangweulu and Ngonye. Bangweulu is producing about 54 megawatts. That's a joint partnership with the private sector, with IDC. And there's a project called Scale Up by the US. They are actually co-financing it. If you saw the Bangweulu power station, it was supported by the Americans through IMF, International Finance Corporation, World Bank, which is a International Finance Corporation, which produced about $39 million, is a World Bank company. And the private money came from the US government, their industrial corporation, which funds private sector programs, then with IDC, Zambian government. So you have those that are also producing. But like I said, to produce power, you as an independent producer, you do not have infrastructure to reach your customers. So you have to rely on the infrastructure of ZESCO. So you've seen this debate. These IMF guys, World Bank, keep on pushing that ZESCO should be dismantled, that ZESCO should have 3 separate companies. The generation companies, the dams should be held separately. Then the transmission lines should be held by another company. Then the retailer and distributor who then sells the power to you should be another company. That's a huge debate. Some of us are against those proposals because they want ZESCO to be efficient. They want ZESCO to be broken down. We think that where this has been done, it hasn't worked very well. You have Zimbabwe and Kenya, where the dismantling of these utility companies have not worked well. Even South Africa has been resisting. Zambia and South Africa are having the same problems with independent power producers because they are producing power expensively. Then they want to sell it to ZESCO. Remember, ZESCO produces its power using a hydropower station. So it's expensive to set up, but one of the cheapest form of producing power. Kariba was built in 1959. We are still getting power from there. So it's literally like it's free power. But an independent power producer cannot generate power at the same price like Kariba can. So they want to sell ZESCO at a commercial rate. ZESCO cannot sell you power at a commercial rate because there are politics involved. First, our people can't afford the so-called cost-reflective tariffs. They can't afford them. So you have Mwamba collieries, recently set up. It produces 360 megawatts and it sells 300 megawatts to ZESCO. But at a huge cost. At the moment, we owe Mwamba collieries $500 million. You know why? Because Mwamba sells power to ZESCO at a far higher rate than ZESCO can sell you or the mines, the power. So that's a trouble with these independent power producers. Even when the president is boasting that he has to unlock these rigidities, I hope he's not forcing ZESCO like ZESCO was forced previously to buy power expensively. Because what it means is therefore ZESCO is subsidizing these independent power producers because they are getting power at either 18 cents per kilowatt or 15 cents per kilowatt, but you are buying it at 6 cents. So who covers the 10 cents? So ZESCO has now gone into these huge debts. And even when they pay per month, they pay about $40 million to these independent power producers. It's not even enough. It's only about 40% of what they're supposed to pay every month.
Right. This country actually, has a very larger percentage of, water bodies. But I'm really wondering, especially when it comes to Southern Africa, I'm wondering why we should be going in darkness like this when obviously when you make a comparison of other countries that have literally no water bodies, but you would find that they don't even have this kind of power outage that we actually have. And also the reliance on hydropower has really adversely affected this particular country. Any other alternatives that you would actually advise government to venture into because we cannot go with this trajectory forever?
First of all, there's nothing wrong with hydropower stations. Yeah. I think they're the most effective for us as a country. There are certain things we need to do. If rivers are drying up, it's because we are cutting trees for charcoal. We should attend to those. We should probably ban charcoal. There are effects. We've allowed settlements around, river fronts. Those bring silting and rivers dry up. There are environmental issues before you even speak about climate change that are affecting our power generation. But let us make it very simple for our people. At the moment, with the investment that was done by the Patriotic Front, Zambia is not supposed to be load-shedded now. Zambia has adequate power. You're not supposed to go to be load-shedded, even if we switch off the entire Kariba. And it's very sad that government is using the propaganda of Kariba and showing you water levels in Kariba. I'll ask them, can you show us the water on Kafue Lower, Kafue Gorge Lower, Kafue Gorge Upper? Can you show us the water on Iteji Dam? I'll ask them, can you show us water on Lusiwasi Dams Upper and Lower? We will ask those difficult questions.
So those others are sufficient to supply the whole country?
You have 2,300 megawatts, peak demand. Either 20 hours or at 12 hours. Peak demand is 2,300. And your production is 3,456. And even Kariba has not been shut off. What we have reduced is its production. Some machines have been switched off, not all the machines. The capacity is 1,080 megawatts. We are producing about 660. So we've reduced. So even if you put out Mwamba collieries, which I saw the ZESCO board chair says Mwamba collieries, ZESCO spokesperson says Mwamba is switched off. Mwamba is 300 megawatts. Kariba, you've switched off some generation capacity there, but you are still producing 660 megawatts. Even if you knock that out, if you look at our national production, we still have enough power. But why do we have load shedding? Power exports. Because government signed, you saw the Energy Regulation Board, even at its last sitting, they announced that they've approved for the power exports for ZESCO, that the power export that ZESCO is doing. You saw the newspapers in Namibia celebrating that for the first time we are not suffering. Even if ESCOM in South Africa is not giving us power, we are glad that Zambia is giving us 180 megawatts. And the Minister of Energy in Namibia is celebrating, is telling his nationals, you will not be load shedded. Thanks to our initiative, we are buying 180 megawatts of power from Zambia. So the reason Zambians are being load shedded is simply to meet the export commitments, nothing else.
And those, obligations under, the memorandum of understanding.
So some are bilateral, some are contractual, commercial contracts, like the Namibian one and the Zimbabwean one, the recently signed ones. Are you saying, are they cast in stone, they can be changed? No, they can be changed. So for example, if we have low water levels, there's nothing you can do. It will be folly for a contract not to provide for exit clauses. It will be folly for any contract not to provide for suspension. It will be folly for any contract not to provide for what we call force majeure. For example, if there's a disaster, what if Kariba Dam breaks down today? Are you still going to be obliged to export power? No. So any standard contract, even your ordinary contract with your tenant, if you're a landlord, it does provide. Munenga tauripire, yoksina kutamfya. Mune, I might need to come back into my house, but I'll give you 1 month's notice. Those clauses are standard in any contract. So our appeal to ZESCO and government is very simple, that now is the time to enforce those clauses. Besides, the experts are telling us that Kariba will be full by March, will be back to normal by March.
Which is after next month.
Yeah, because remember why we are having this crisis is that Southern Province is one of the driest, provinces in the country. So you have to wait for water to come from the Kafue, from the Zambezi, up north, from Ikeleng, the rains. And that's why we have to worry about the cutting of trees in Northwestern. At the rate that they are cutting those trees, you will have dry rivers. So for government, for me, there are short-term approaches and long-term approaches. The short-term approaches, we must ensure that first of all, we attend to these forests that we are decimating, forests we are degazetting, forests, rivers we are allowing to silt and dry up. We have to attend to that.
All right, Mr. Mwamba, I would like you to also, put across the aspect of, I know you hinted a little bit on, solar power generation. We have, adequate sunshine, and sunlight in Zambia, where we can actually have these power plants in many areas across the country. Under the Patriotic Front, I understand, there are certain projects that were undertaken, and you spoke about the Bangweulu solar power plant. And of course, this is quite a milestone, and we really need to move with that trajectory of making sure that we install solar power plants, in many areas across the country to reduce the dependence of, hydro power. It's really giving us a lot of problems.
Yeah, there's what is called energy mix. How should your energy be if one fails? So Zambia has two important ones. Core. We have 80 million reserves just in Mwamba and Sinazongo area. 80 million well-known reserves. I know there are climate change debates that we shouldn't fund what is called dirty energy, but our biggest issue should be power produced from coal. We, like what Mamba Collieries as a private sector in relation with IDC have done, we need more to utilize that reserve we have. So the climate change people are saying, no, there should be commitment that no more dirty energy production. You know, South Africa is being offered money to shut down some of their coal-fired plants because South Africa relies on coal-fired plants to have its power. For me, that's our biggest strength. Solar is again one of the solutions. The experts say we have up to what they call 3,000 hours of sunshine. Meaning our sun rises early, sets very late.
And it goes to west.
Yeah, and it goes to west. So some of the off-grid towns can be powered, where you just go and set up this mini solar farm just to cater for that town. You don't have to evacuate power from Kariba to feed some of the towns. So there are those solutions that can be done. That is why, like like PF planned, was that energy was going to be our biggest source of exports. Because if you look at the sunshine that we have, if you look at the coal that we have as a country, if you look at the hydro, our water that we have, you realize that the biggest export we should be a net exporter of electricity to the region and to Africa.
All right. Now, one important thing that I actually for sure know is that, with the interests the world has actually put in mitigating climate change, and of course we are actually getting to use more of charcoal, and this particular issue leads us to cutting down of many trees. Especially, you've highlighted that we shouldn't actually cut a lot of trees in northwestern province because that's where the source of
to affect Zambezi
River is actually. And when we actually do that, it will simply mean that that side will actually dry up, hence we will not have enough rains, and Lake Kariba will be actually affected, and that will actually mean that power generation will be adversely affected in that particular regard. With the view of climate change, if we actually go the trajectory of using charcoal, that simply means that we are actually going to continue increasing on the reduction in power generation or hiccups that we may be finding insofar as our power generation is concerned. Maybe let's deal with the issues of climate change also, how we can deal with climate change amidst power outages. Because when we have power outages, it simply means that we are going to have an increased demand for charcoal.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will be actually opting to use more of charcoal than electricity, which obviously is right away scarce.
So the biggest advantage we have still remains water, like I said. For example, the Luangwa River, there is no single hydropower station on Luangwa, and we let that water go to west. And for Luangwa River, which carries so much water, it joins the Zambezi after Kariba Dam.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the amount of water that goes to west, that just goes to feed the power stations in Mozambique, not Zambia. So we just need to, I think, plan very well. Yes, the southern part of Zambia is affected. Western province and southern province is quite dry. But we have a lot of water in the north. So what do you do with that water? I was attending a water conference in South Africa when I was High Commissioner, and it had called all experts across Africa. The western part of Africa and North Africa are worried about the desertification, where they keep on losing forest, and the desert is increasing coming down to West Africa. Southern Africa, for one reason or another, South Africa is dry, doesn't have water. And when the minister stood to make its plans, there are 30 and 50-year plans, I saw that all their plans hinged on Zambia, that they'll get water from Zambia. I said, wait a minute, Menshi Eswaya. You mean South Africa is planning to get our water?
And we are failing to plan to utilize.
Can you imagine? So here you are, South Africa, which is far, 3,000 kilometers away, has looked at your water, and they are saying, how can we tap Zambia's water? How much will it cost us? They are to do feasibility study, how to pipe Zambia's water. Because as South Africa, they do not have water. They are running out of water. The city of Johannesburg, for example, gets its water as an export from Lesotho. They had to build a dam in Lesotho, dam the water in Lesotho, and say, why should Luangwa deposit water after Kariba Dam? Why you are into the Zambezi? Why can't we then have a plan, create a tributary into Zambezi, and we are still firm with hydropower station. That's why we should develop the Luapula one that they want to do 1,000 megawatts. All those plans where you have adequate water. But like I said, government has to engage in climate mitigation measures. This wanton cutting of trees, these charcoal-based trees take 25 years to 100 years to grow. But you're just allowing these charcoal burners to move from one forest to another. And we are decimating our forest at one of the fastest rates in the world. And no one is speaking to that. No one is speaking about that. What that means is you won't have water. That's what it simply means. Because wherever you have trees, you are guaranteed you'll have proper rainfall and you'll have proper springs and streams and rivers. So we are just allowing these charcoal burners move from one place to another. There are laws to stop that charcoal. But you see at every roadblock, whether someone has a certificate or not, and they share the certificates. Because one certificate will be on 30 canters, and the police, they just look away. So we have to seriously attend to issues like that.
We seem to have, taken a trajectory to allowing politicians to be at the center of certain technocratic issues that border. For instance, the aspect of power generation in our country, since we rely on hydro power much over everything else. I actually look at this particular angle of why have we allowed politicians to be at the center of making such kind of decisions without a higher engagement of technocrats who happen to be, in this case, engineers, to guide and give us a roadmap on how we can actually salvage ourselves from these shackles of lack of power and inconsistent power supply in our country. Why have we allowed?
McFarlane, that's why I've always stated that we should have a national discourse that makes sense. You have politicians that come here and they talk about who has the largest forehead and who has the largest nose. That is what our politicians discuss. I've always said, can we discuss proper issues? For example, we have load shedding. I want a full engagement of discussion. I want ZESCO to tell me that, Ambassador, we have load shedding because Mamba Collieries produces 300 megawatts. It's off. Ndola Energy produces 110. It relies on Indeni. Indeni has been off since 2019. So Ndola Energy has been affected because it uses heavy fuel. So the 105 megawatts from Ndola Energy, we are not getting it. And Ndola Energy cannot transport that oil on trucks because they use a lot of oil for those jet engines that run to produce that 105 megawatts. I want them to tell me that Kariba is off because we've reduced by 500 megawatts. So when they tell me that, then I'll remind them, but what about Kafue Gorge Lower? You are producing 600 megawatts. What about Kafue Upper? You are producing 990 megawatts. What about Tej? Tej has not been affected. You're producing 120 megawatts. I want a debate that informs both us, between us as stakeholders and our people. What we have is very shallow debate. That's why ZESCO can just take cameras to Kariba and tell you that that's why you have load shedding. But no one is asking these hard questions. Again, McFarlane, it comes down to us, the leaders, who set the pace for debate. Whether it's a debate about cost of living, whether it's a debate about the IMF, whether it's a debate about our national security, whether it's a debate about the well-being of our people, whether it's agriculture, is superficial and shallow. Can we engage in serious debate that informs our citizens, makes for better decisions? And if our people, for example, know that the only reason they are being load-shedded is because ZESCO is exporting power, they are going to ask President Hakainde Hichilema and his government strong questions. They will say, bakateka, if ofwe bana benu mwatusha mumfimfi, moneni ba Namibia bale sefia, when they have no load shedding 24 hours. Why are you prioritizing those children in Namibia? President Hakainde Hichilema then should be forced to answer. He would say, look, Kafue Gorge Lower, which has just been built at $2.1 billion, requires that we pay this loan in the next 10 to 15 years. So I therefore want ZESCO to export this power, to raise money, to pay for this Kafue Gorge Lower, which is producing 750.
And remain with our own power without export.
So there will be a meaningful debate. Yeah. But what we have is deception.
So in short, we may actually have a truth in what is happening, and also something that can be substantiated. But the problem actually comes in the wake of, having information that is actually not flowing in a way that the citizens should actually be able to understand.
Yes,
we have, insufficient information flow to the general public.
Yes. So we have a tendency of treating our people like they are children. Bafiseni, maybe if today is low water, there's low water levels in Kariba. So when some of us then begin to bring these questions, and we tell them, no, you have enough power, and we demonstrate that enough power. So then the government is forced to engage in deception, because when you tell a lie at the beginning, you have to build it up with another lie. For me, this can be a meaningful engagement. ZESCO can make those details public. They can say, from Namibia alone, we are getting $6 million a month. That's income we can't forgo. From Zimbabwe, we are getting $10 million a month. That's income we can't forgo. From Botswana, we are getting $3 million. You know, when there is a proper debate, our people will understand. But when you engage in deception, the only reason we are exporting is because Kariba is at low water levels. You are taking our people for granted. Let us have a meaningful, honest discussion. Besides, we want ZESCO liquid. We want ZESCO to pay its debts. We want ZESCO viable to engage in this investment that we're talking about that should be done. They need to do their investment for Batoka, for Luapula, together with CEC for Kabompo. They need to do the solar power projects we're talking about that can be off-grid and fund and support our towns. You don't have to take power to every town. You can do an off-grid solution for our farmers and for politicians. We can zero rate importation of solar stations and solar panels, so that McFarlane, you don't have to depend on ZESCO. Kutuwavika weka ma solar panels and attendant issues. And you have power sufficient. You can even sell to ZESCO. That's what I saw in UK, where citizens sell to the power company, because they turn all their roofs to solar roofs. And they have so much power for their homes that they sell it to the grid.
I've realized one aspect, Mr. Mwamba, that there is too much, insatiable appetite, for most governments of this republic, in terms of, highly taxing the citizens. This is obviously that is coming as an impediment on how people actually can have their own, power, generation from their homes. And if that was, done before and is being done now, we wouldn't have been, even this huge demand of, hydroelectricity. So I don't know why we have this monopolization of wisdom. Each government that comes into office thinks and feels that it's the only source of wisdom, and there is no external wisdom that can actually, come from other stakeholders that can offer, tangible solutions to the problems that we actually have. Why?
So it comes down to,
go on to that kind of a behavior.
Just go to today's newspapers and see what the headlines are. it tells you our national debate is not focused on very important issues. Our national debate is not focused on things that can build this country. You can have, for example, President Hakainde Hichilema, hold a press conference for 3 hours and he spends 2 hours, 30 minutes talking about the Patriotic Front. That's not productive. I wish that he had spent his time talking about solutions that he has for this country. There are so many burning issues. The cost of living. How can you bring down the cost of living? Why is it so high? Why do we have the cost of living the highest in 30 years, yet we have a new government that promised to lower the cost of goods and services? I want us to have a meaning. What are the impediments? If it's debt, what are the issues with debt? No, it needs to be written off. Okay, who are the main players of this debt? China is your biggest creditor. Okay, but President, nishtamwila ku China. Uko kwa America mwate mokuya. There is no money. Even America is relying on China. So Wakateka, I know you believe in liberal policies, but in China, why don't you take 2 visits to China? China maybe can write off that debt, because China built our Tazara when they were a poor country at huge, huge cost. Millions, today is in billions, that price of Tazara. We've never paid a single ngwe to China. You know, China did most of some of our industries. So until McFarlane, we have a proper debate. Why is our fuel expensive? Our fuel is expensive because of middlemen, nothing else. Why don't we make Indeni and Tazama work? What are the impediments? What do we need for Indeni? You need an upgrade of that refinery. How much do we need? We need $500 million. Look, ZESCO is going to pay Mwamba Colliery, is a private company, $500 million. You mean government can't find $500 million to upgrade Indeni? What do we need for Tazama? What upgrades can we do? Tazama has already been upgraded up to 700 kilometers. There's only 1,000 kilometers remaining. Why don't we finish that project? You don't like the project because it was started by the PF? So we need to have meaningful debates. Why do you have the IMF? The IMF are telling you that there should be no subsidies on fuel. There should be no subsidies on fertilizer. There should be no subsidies in the agricultural sector. There should be no subsidies in electricity. Can we engage in this debate? Do we need the IMF? Abama mines to repel ma tax holidays, tabali pirana tax. Do we need to do that? Kukongo kwa ribenkondo. Kukongo is unstable, government almost collapsing. But all the investors are flocking to the DRC. Why are you, a country that is at peace, that enjoys autonomy, institutions that have grown, the judiciary that works? Why are you allowing to give these incentives that even Congo doesn't give? Because Congo knows it has cobalt. Cobalt is not available anywhere else. The investor will come from Australia, from Canada. He will come and mine it. He will come and mine the copper. But as we behave like beggars, and we become beggars because we behave like beggars. All right. So McFarlane, I call for a discourse that's rich, that changes this country. I don't want to come to radio. I want to come to radio that we discuss issues. Currently, we have an energy crisis. That is not an energy crisis.
All right. I'm loving how you are actually explaining these issues. I know then you were a civil servant and you couldn't speak, against such kind of things.
I spoke in the corners and in the corridors.
How I wish you could, also advise the previous administration, but I know that there are certain, oaths that you were bound to abide. So let's get to also hear, from our listeners, whatever that you have to say on this particular program. And the number to call is 0977-165-743, 0967-430, 960-969-269, 960-969-269. And indeed, we'll be glad to hear from you. You can ask, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. And of course, he is currently an aspiring candidate, for the presidency of the Patriotic Front. And of course, you can also call us and we hear from you according to what has been, talked about on this program. You can toss in your contribution as well on this program. Hello, good morning. You are through to the program. Good morning. I'm well, thank you. How are you doing today? Oh, we have a challenge. Hello, good morning. Come again? Yeah, we can hear you. What's your name? Your name is Muntumususu General Mark, isn't it? All right. You can kindly proceed with your contribution.
Yes, sir.
Hello? Oh,
and we are depending on the people like you and Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba with all this done. How should we be suffering from road shedding when we are told that road shedding has ended? When we are told that you have got a numbers of 1,000 kilowatts, which we are free even to export one at a time. Where is this road shedding coming from Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba? Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, this country is in your shoulders. We are in a mess. We have the president of Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba who was telling us last month. How many of you have been rotated here? We are waiting in the background. So we are waiting in the background to bring the 10 hours of rotation by my Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. Do you understand what it means, 12 hours of rotation? To a salon in Kalingaringa Palamba market? In Mutendele market, do you understand what that rotating means to a world along Alicingata Road? Do you understand? So, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, we are asking you people who are sharp to come up in the open and tell this. We can't see this government is outplaying our patience. They are tempting us to listen. Do we have to go on the street, Ambassador Emmanuel, to start protesting? So this president is an elder.
right.
He told us that he has finished McFarlane road shooting. He told the nation. That it is a road shooting. We were told the Kalipa Dam or no Kalipa Dam. There will be no road shooting in this country. So is McFarlane with the Ambassador Emmanuel. Where is this road shooting coming from? So playing games with people's lives,
Right.
my friend.
We would like to thank you so much for your submission. We have taken note of your point. Thank you very much for making it great. Let's get to hear what others have to say. 0977-165743, 0977-165743. You can call us. And those of you that are watching Prime Television right now, you can also get to pick those numbers appearing on the screen of your television set. So let's get to hear from you as well. 0977-165743 and 0960969269. We'll be glad to hear from you. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Hello?
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning. How are you, Mr. McFarlane?
I'm well, thank you. How are you doing today?
No, we are enjoying, and we are still calling you from Little Zambia. My name is Philemon.
Okay, Philemon, you can proceed with your contribution, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Bwana guest there.
Bafirimon Murishani
Sisi wino mulitani Bwana there.
and Dita.
Thank you. The issue of electricity. Due to private and period. And the previous government invested into the energy sector. All these problems.
Kindly enlighten us when you say it's due to climate change.
Sorry?
Enlighten us further. If you say it's due to climate change, we ought to know what you are talking about.
What a good question, Mr. Moderator. The info there, my secretary, are not doing the optimum level of floating water in Canada. That's what you want. See the answer I can give. That's a layman language can understand.
Why? Because if you can recollect last year, the rain started very late around December towards January. People should not forget. At least maybe this year, since the rain started, we are going to have good rain pattern. At least maybe next year around this time, the situation won't be the same. That's why people are surprised why rotating an increase of rain season instead of October. You see? So people are saying this rotating is both. According to hydrology, technocrats, what they are saying is the water that is used by Kariba Dam comes from in an area where it is where rainfall very good, like northwestern, and it takes about 3 months. So we're expecting these problems to improve somewhere in March, February. That's why we are seeing that it was getting.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have taken note of your point. We need to give also some space for the guests to compact your submission.
Yeah, in conclusion, Mr. Moderator, under 10 seconds. Hello?
Please proceed.
Yeah, thank you for giving my time now. Let me qualify. The point I wanted to drive on was they had invested area because this of hydro, it's a problem. So how, if they had invested a lot of money in the renewable energy, which the new government is doing, once they back on.
All right, thank you.
Problem will be of the past.
We appreciate your contribution.
The get there, that they should not blame the new government. This problem was created by the Patriotic Front.
All right, we appreciate your contribution. Let's allow others as well to be a part. Hello, good morning. Yeah, I'm quite more vocation. How are you going to name book?
Kanawesa shukulu mlishani. Temko shukulu. Ndita. Emkwai.
And some of them, they went in there to approve, which are charging them down. But somebody took it out. That's the problem of UPA and the other land. So it's kind of a chance. No, but people are sharing in their power. One about because they are liars, all of them. Because they kind of a chance to go abantu tabalaba tabalayo mwana suita kalameyo mwana tipi mchalo waone kwa mapata kumiki kupata kwa mami and abantu wale for if you can go around put him up sana you show away balunda the tuition when kwenda mafala Julie kama hivi na wale pia wanataka kufahamu kuja Amerika chano kuna mwangu walichola sababu tunachakato some of the line huko kuna mtama system mchana wafanya kama hivi and besides on that Emmanuel Mwamba kondo langa mwatipo ya kulia Dangote ala kwa malaika I think you recall that Dangote remember kwanza machine ala anga malaika na chako umeweka kondo la I think you are aware of that.
Yes.
Because why they come into a Nigeria speak with of energy and electric mining and everything. But they go there what is what they have done? What has also done the same? So that the one problem you have protected is very good. And not only that, Look, shedding in Why? Because we are in the late season. We don't put a sign of Kapuya.
Right.
I mean, it's all
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your contribution this morning. Thank you very much. I would like you to respond.
Yes, thank you.
To take another set, of course.
So let me start with General Mark. General Mark has wondered where we're having this 12-hour load shedding. He doesn't understand. And like many Zambians, they do not understand where we have to have load shedding because of the challenges and difficulties that our people are suffering. Saloons, welders, barbershop, tailors. And he says President Hakainde Hichilema promised to stop load shedding. General Mark, I agree with you, and I've demonstrated here that there is no need for load shedding. Philemon says Kariba is down. But Philemon, I spent a lot of time here to explain to you that Kariba is not even our only generation capacity. In fact, I've demonstrated that Kafue Gorge Up and Kafue Gorge Lower are our biggest power producers because they are producing 990 megawatts and 750 megawatts. So they are even producing more power than Kariba. And I've called the blame that ZESCO is putting on Kariba as mere propaganda. Because even in Kariba, they've just reduced the production, which is at 1,080, they've reduced it to 660. So even in Kariba, they're producing.
After they started exporting.
Yes. And I have attributed to the entire energy crisis we have in Zambia to who? To exports. And I said ZESCO rushed and DRB rushed to sign these power agreements, power export agreements. Because if they are technocrats, if they didn't fire some of the engineers, they were going to tell them that, yes, we have excess in June, but we don't have excess power in December and January. They were going to tell them that don't rush to these power exports. Maybe just see the little you can export.
This is why I said there is a monopolization of wisdom amongst politicians who disregard the technocrats, wisdom or knowledge.
Yes. So that's one big example. Yes, we had surplus of 1,000 in June, but it's not the same surplus in now. Because you have to take into account factors like low water levels in Kariba. And the other questions came from, this gentleman, the same Philemon says, is PF to blame? No, PF did a good job. They found power generation capacity at 1,600 and they upgraded it to 3,456. So you have to thank the Patriotic Front. If we were at 1,600, if PF did nothing, didn't upgrade any of the power stations and didn't bring the big ones online, we will have such a crisis, a deficit crisis, that probably will have power only for 1 hour. But thanks to the PF of what they did. Wakanabe Sawashukuru Michael says this government came on the basis of lies and they continue to lie. This is now an established opinion that the president and his people do not tell the truth. It is now sticking. It used to be an allegation, but now it's being proven as true. And that, because he said there will be no shortages of medicines in hospitals. We have had a shortage of medicines, medical supplies, equipment is failing, no laboratory reagents for 1 year. The president said there will be no shortages of medicines when he comes into office. He says fuel will cost far less. He says it will be 12 kwacha per liter. It's 25 kwacha per liter. He said the dollar will be at 12 kwacha. It's at 17, going to 18. He said the electricity will be far cheaper. You saw him repeatedly promise our people that the electricity they're buying is very expensive and will make it cheaper. He has even increased. The connection fees used to be at 700 kwacha. Now minimum is 7,000 kwacha. And depending on how far you are away from the pole, you can pay up to 20,000 kwacha. So the president is being held and his government as a liar because the many things he promised are turning out not to be. And Washukuru Michael said something very important, that Dangote produces power. It's just not Dangote. Zambia Sugar does. Kafue Sugar does. There's a way in which they want to insulate themselves in their business away from the vagaries of ZESCO. ZESCO is not reliable. I cannot stop my machines. So they invest. Dangote has a plan always wherever he invests. He knows power is a problem in Africa. So what he does, every time he sets up a plant, he also sets up a power plant, which feeds the power. It reduces the cost of his production, and reliability is 100% because you are managing all the factors going into producing your commodity. So Kafue Sugar doesn't have to depend on ZESCO. Its farms will run. It's a good model, and I agree with Washukuru Michael. That's why I proposed that there's something that government can do to make the cost of solar panels and solar energy systems cheap, where you can remove all sorts of taxes and provide incentives. You know, you can make it a big industrial sector where all our roofs, they are wasting energy. They're wasting. You know, all of them can tap power and feed into our homes. This can be driven by government. It can also be driven by ZESCO. I remember one time ZESCO brought energy-saving lights in all our homes to all their customers. It was an investment by ZESCO to do that. They came to your house, whether you wanted to change the light or not, because they knew that when they remove that 100 watts light and they give you 14, they will spend something on that bulb for 14 kwacha. But they knew that they would be saving up to 80 watts of power. And when you aggregate that, that was a lot of power. Similarly, we can do the same with solar and solar panels.
All right. Let's get to taking some more calls from you, our listeners and viewers, wherever you are, following this program from 0977 165 0977 165 and 0960 969 We hear what you have to say. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, McFarlane.
Turn down the volume on your television or radio set, please.
Yes, that has done, McFarlane.
All right, go ahead.
Good morning, Ambassador.
Good morning, sir.
This is Emmanuel Mwamba, senior citizen.
Thank you, senior citizen.
Omwanga.
Nitalapera shangwe
Amuta mtocha kwandu kukuna.
You see, what is happening now, I think was highly expected. There are so many areas of incompetence with this government now. There are so many areas, and there is nowhere you can look at that probably you can say, maybe here they will do better, maybe let us wait. No. I think 1 year or 16 months that have been in power, I think is long enough to actually generate confidence in the people. Now we've lost the confidence. Even those that used to sing for them are tired now, the great singers. This issue, sugar and electricity, definitely, load shedding, has affected us very badly. And it's most unfortunate that there is no functioning to say we are doing this for our people who are in this situation. There is nothing like that. By Emmanuel Mwamba, please try to talk most of the time so that maybe these people can learn something. Because on their own, you see, they are not going anywhere. So they need the people. The very people they are criticizing. I like the unity that's there in our presidential apparel. Continue this kind of unity because definitely this government cannot do anything for these people. Completely failed it. Thank you very much.
We appreciate your submission this morning. We're taking some more calls on 0977 165 743 0977 165 743 0960 969 and 0953323738. Hello, good morning. Good morning. Obugaga botu mauga buti bachisha. Gunganda buliga botu mbayo mubano. Talumba mwami alumbo.
Good morning. Brother Chisha, Mwabukabuti. No, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Mm.
We are also with the leadership of UPND, Your Excellency, because we are able to remember promises made. The president himself, at was going around telling Zambians to say, if they have failed to provide you with power, because of corruption. He was very upset. They are selling power out of the country. No wonder Zambians are suffering. You know, Your Excellency, and the listeners out there, personally, I do even ask myself the question. Is the same statement His Excellency in State House today, or maybe Community House, since it's not in the State House, Community House, the one who was in the opposition, making a lot of promises, is the same person today in power. I can't believe it. Because he was going around calling a lot of things, like small new looking all to smack the home government, things to the things of the past. This is not enough. 1 month ago, if not 2 months ago, he came again, wow, in power, telling Zambians to say, road shaping is the thing of the past. Honestly speaking, to have the head of state coming out in such a manner, it's a sad development, because if he knew that you are going to experience such a thing, why promise Zambians to say that road shaping is the thing of the past? Your Excellency, BESCO and UPND, they have been advertising to say we are going to experience 6 hours of road shaping. Where these 12 hours of road shaping comes from? Those I'm saying myself. I don't know exactly what is happening. They have been telling us to say we are going to have 6 hours of road shaping last year. But yesterday, as the day for yesterday, we are experiencing more than 12 hours of road shaping. Honestly speaking, Your Excellency, where are we going exactly as a nation? What are you going to do to help the Zambians, you people in opposition? Are we going to have the challenge after 2026? Or maybe we can have maybe you can have some meetings with Taka in the Islam. You try to talk to him to say that maybe is not able to see it, because recently we have the vice president going around hospitals bringing false information to say no, there is actually medicine in the hospital. Does it mean that maybe the president is not aware of the current situation in Zambia? My question to you, Excellency, as I conclude, what measures are you putting in place, you people in opposition? Don't you have anything to reach to the head of state to remind him maybe he's not aware, maybe the calculator he was using in the opposition is nowhere to be seen. You can't go and tell him and remind him over the president, we are going to suffer and do this the way we are suffering today. Thank you so much, my father.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, you are through to the program.
Yeah,
Buena Mwaka Bunch.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Okay, tiri bueno. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Confidence ya mene nilina kuri wa president ikainde ikirema nitilipo japo muzira manene ndo tapo aba Michael Chirubya tata oloija time ya pati imetendolewa muzilanga izachinja Michael tata na HH kupata banapa na chikondi cha HH banapa party judgment kuchakawika so jazona itabutine competence na wa president ikainde makapena UPND government ni tripo chikabwera kunkani amene mtandaula yapakuja kataka kaunga mpie kukuno kwa kanyama pamene nililine tenze 200 lero kukula zingaji kama mea nisivira hivi pia kuzembele na kwa nitaku liki na maeleki anga mamewa na likumina 2016 so tembe kataka kaunga tembe kalipa 300 from 350 Zambia already tembe ilimuma sanction chifukwa default ya jamena mwenze kupita ya kenzo chipeleka kuma sanction tembe kilipati aba wamene batanda ulalirwa ababedi mwangalaba na plate tembe banaiva alafu kamwa yekizia mika onani lelo imwe mulifuliumo mu studio iyo studio mwenge munaivara bapiye indimwe but government kapena wamene mwenze kukwatira vanavhara yo station but onani UPND government ikalipitiriza kumipata kuti ministro zigulisa imwe vamwamba munkale va president vapiye kuti mujetine va president ikaite ichilema milandu davene katere kalumba mwenzo jakiri milandu zende chidesiricha ina wamene tinainge kuskuru nendozira vaononga wanyamasa.
All right, we appreciate your contribution this morning. All right, we appreciate your contribution this morning. We are taking in this one. Hello, good morning.
Professor Mnyanga, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you doing today, Mr. Piri?
I'm okay.
Wonderful.
Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, how are you?
Mr. Piri, good afternoon. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Happy New Year to you.
Hello?
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, happy New Year too. Happy New Year, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mwamba, you are one of my favorite presidential aspirants in PF.
I'm grateful.
Yes, now the only problem that I see, I know I'm coming to the issue of visit, is that you are not united PF to get one big president to challenge for him. So on the issue of electricity, you know, I get surprised. You PF signed huge contracts to export power to other countries. When the import that has got very little what.
Well,
Other countries are abroad that electricity. But your own Zambians who wanted you to power and suffer. You go there and go to one of the ministers that did houses. Power is there. There are four alternatives. So there's no problem. What they have got power. Export of red. But it's made outside. Well, in your country, people are suffering. There's no problem. It shows that say that politicians, they have got that speed of totaling them.
oh, unfortunately, we've lost him. And let's get to at least, hear your submission, because due to time, we have a few minutes for us to wrap it up. You can respond to the call we received.
Yeah, let me start with Emmanuel Mwangala. Thank you very much, Wampundu. He says there are so many areas of incompetence for the UPND, whether it's in the agriculture sector, energy, the economy, transport, infrastructure. They are failing in all manners, and he has concluded that the UPND government has failed. I agree with him. Brother Chisha has also, wondered. President Hakainde Hichilema said load shedding was a thing of the past. It is for this reason that even President Edgar Lungu declared in 2020 that load shedding is over. Why? Because the PF had done investment over the last 10 years. Even President Edgar Lungu said load shedding is a thing of the past. Why do we have load shedding? Exports. I've explained. It's exports, nothing else. Yes, we have low water levels. Yes, we have reduction of power generation. But what we have is that we have above our production, above our needs. And any excess that was being exported in the period of deficit, you suspend the exports. And he wondered that he saw the vice president claim that there are medicines in hospitals. I can refer quickly to and do you know why those were available? because those are donated by our donors. So maybe when the vice president went into a pharmacy, she saw TB drugs, those will be available. She saw ARVs, those will be available, because anti-malarials, those will be available, because our donors took that role for us and they support and fund. But you will not find things like antibiotics. You will not find bandages for our people. You will not find ORIS for diarrheal diseases. Kamayos Tumbeko says he supports UPND and he supported Mr. Michael Sata, and he says in his way, President Hakainde Hichilema is doing a good job, and he wants to support President Hakainde Hichilema. He's forgetting that, for example, Tayari was harassed on the Copper Belt and chased by UPND cadres, and none of those UPND cadres have been arrested. Mr. Piri says I'm his favorite presidential candidate, but he thinks that we are not united. But he accuses the PF of signing power agreements for exports. Now, Mr. Piri, let me correct you. There are exports that we've been doing since the 60s to the DRC and Malawi. We did sign some agreement, like to...
You find those agreements, or you just had to sign them?
The UPND.
No, I mean...
The UPND signed 4 brand new agreements to Namibia, to Zimbabwe 100 megawatts, to Botswana, and to South Africa. They even signed a fresh one, to the DRC, to Tanzania. The ones we export to Malawi and DRC are traditional ones. Occasionally we supply, like I said, to the Southern Africa power pool. When you have excess, you throw into the pool. But the 4 new agreements, Mr. Piri, were done by the current management at ZESCO.
And those ones actually cannot affect our power supply if we are supplying to our southern region power pool.
Yeah.
They can't affect.
Yeah, because you rationalize with your national demand, and you can reduce the impact. If they wish to maintain the exports, they can reduce the impact our people are suffering. There is no justification to take it from 6 hours to 12 hours. If you look at the current generation capacity, there is no need to take it to 12 hours.
Mr. Mwamba, I'd like you to give your final remarks.
Thank you very much. My views have always been, McFarlane, that this government must pay attention to the issue of the economy. That's the biggest crisis. They have a new crisis in this load shedding issue. They need to attend to it. We have provided solutions of what they need to do. The agricultural sector is reeling under its own weight. Fertilizer was not distributed on time, and you've seen those fields that are drying up. They need to attend to the economy and economic issues. So to our dear listeners, thank you for calling. For those that agreed with us and those that differed with us, we thank you. And to our dear listeners, God bless you. God bless our country. Our country will be better.
Thank you very much. And that's Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba, who happened to be a Patriotic Front, aspiring candidate for the seat of president of the Patriotic Front, indeed. And my name is McFarlane Munyanga. We will be back on Monday with yet another edition of the platform program. May God bless you, and good morning.